we're going away for an extended weekend, and I can't rely on Mother Nature to keep the plants watered. So today is a big watering day. It's about 2 hours, part of the day. And I haven't really had to do it that much this year. Last year was definitely a lot heavier watered than this year has been by myself. Um, but the compost tea is only going to certain plants, particularly the container ones. The rest of the garden will be just well watered. So I'm starting with the balcony here with my ground cherries, which have always been reliable, and also for I haven't been very good at watering because this one's super limpy already. My ever-bearing strawberries are not faring as well this year because I haven't been as good at watering and feeding, and it is a few years old already, so it could just be at the end of its life. But yeah, I just put a little bit first because otherwise it just all runs through. So put a little bit in, wait a few, and then put a little bit more so that it absorbs it a little bit better. Particularly if I've been neglectful for a little too long, then the soil has become hydrophobic. Summertime is definitely, I believe, the toughest season to be away from your garden, particularly if you don't get rain on the regular and you don't have some kind of irrigation setup. This is my wildflower little triangle here that I'm trying to get started. And I'm not really sure what's popping up, but there's a few things like that and some green stuff. there. I think some are amaranth, maybe celosia, cosmos. It's hard to tell when they're this tiny. Very few things look different when they're super small. Or maybe marigold even, because I see one over there. Where is it? Over there. That looks like a marigold. Particularly troublesome are seedlings that can't handle that many days away from a water source. So luckily I have grow lights, I have a timer, so I'm going to bring this inside and it should be fine. It looks like I need to reseed my cucumbers and another zucchini because this is coming up poorly. Um, Spinach could also use a top. Brussels sprouts did poorly. We did good on the fennel, the broccoli, and the cabbage. Kohlrabi's fine, and the lettuce. I just did a giant harvest on my basil. I think you'll see that video before this one. There's really no magic number for how long you should water your plants. One way to do it is to take whatever watering source you have and time how long it takes to fill a gallon container. You know, like count out 1, 2, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, however you want to do it. And then as you're watering your plants, that's how much you count per per you know per foot. But I just do like 20 seconds per area. Generally, it covers like an 18-inch area. That's like how far the sprinkle goes out. But it varies. Depends on the soil, the plant that's in it. So I did weed this area finally, and now you can see the fennel much better. Now I did not plant this particular clump is 3 altogether, so they're kind of struggling here. But let's chalk this up to me. I'm just gonna harvest the fronds from this one, whereas the ones over there, this, I'm gonna harvest hopefully a bulb. We shall see. This has been in since the spring, and I did have seedlings coming up to go into the fall, and hopefully those will bulb up a little bit better. And I'll probably plant the seedlings in the same space here, since I do have space. The dill that was here bolted fairly quickly. Cilantro is already done for the season. That is one seed that I want to also spread or intentionally plant for the fall season. I'll do that when I get back from this mini vacation. So, like, this area is primarily bolting cilantro, flowering oregano, lots of bees on there. This yarrow that roots pretty deeply. So, this space I wouldn't water for very much time either. And it's about 10:30 now, so it's a little on the getting late side of things for watering, but sometimes you do what you got to do with the time you have. And time permitting, I might come back out this afternoon, early evening, and water some more. I say that, but it's not likely going to happen. But the intention is there in the morning. I did recently transplant my white cypress vine that I seeded, and I think this is going to be the best year for them. I usually have sad success with it, tiny little flowers, and the flowers aren't that big, but I think this is the first time that I'm going to have more superior flowers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vines, and the ones over there are a little bit more shaded, so I don't know how well they're going to do, but I'll take what I can get. It's really hard playing with the sun here. This is the rice, the one in the container without drainage, which, as you can see, is getting dry, which is not ideal. As you can see, there's been some kind of rodent digging around in here. As you can also see, I have I know, it's a dozen out of more than 200 seeds that I dropped in this space. Only a dozen has come up. These were seeded in a container ahead of time back in early May and then put out, I don't know, mid-June or something. So they're doing fine. But for you, particularly at Healy Means, I have pathetic germination on those seeds that I just threw in a container. That could be the seed itself, obviously. There could have been things eating it, although it was submerged in water for a while, so I don't know what could have done that. Who knows? So it's not always successful with these things. I just wanted to point out a phenomenon that happens in containers is this separation between the container and the soil when the soil starts to shrink because of lack of water. Now, it's not a problem in this because it's contained. The water will just fill up. But when it comes to containers that are, regular with holes at the bottom, then you really have to actively soak those babies, like put them in a kiddie pool or something until they're soaked through all the way so that the soil relaxes again and fills up the whole container. Because otherwise, your water is just going to keep going to the easiest place and draining out of your container, and your plants are never going to get watered thoroughly. So I filled this up pretty close to the top there, left it some room in case it does rain, but we don't want to have to worry about evaporation as much if we're all filled up. Now, I don't know if you can see that bubble there. So this is going to sink down a little bit. So I'll come back to this later and see how the water level is and maybe top it off. Now this onion has been in here for years now. It was a supermarket onion that I just left here, and it goes to seed and dies and comes back and goes to seed and dies and comes back. So yeah, we got the chives doing well. Particularly doing well is my sun gold. So very happy about that. And I mean, time will tell on the carrots here that I even forgotten I had put in. There's like 5 or 6 in here, but they look good too. The alyssum is finally flowering, little white flowers. Now this is always a pain working with all this netting, but it's very necessary on brassicas. Um, while I've kept the cabbage moth away, the slug is still here. It's minimal though, so I don't mind so much. We're starting to head up, as they say, on some of the cabbages. So that's exciting. This might be, yeah, this is like, well, it's still early, but this could be my first successful cabbage harvest. This is broccoli here. The Swiss chard is getting drowned out back there, but it's a trooper, so it'll be fine. And the kale. Kale's looking beautiful. This is definitely lacinato or dinosaur kale. And then a curly kale back here. One of the many curly kales I have. But yeah, this looks like a purple kohlrabi, which I didn't realize I had in here. But it's bulbing. Can you see? Where's the camera? It's bulbing anyway. Yeah, there it is. Bulbing up. There's a little bit of weed pressure in there. Some straw poking through because it's inevitable. This is grass mulch I have in here, so there's less grasses. But the ones where I put the mulch of straw from that I was using, like with the chicken coop, those have lots of seeds, ridiculously seedy. So long term is to build a better cage for this bed, because we're gonna have overgrowth with the broccoli soon. It's gonna touch the netting, and it's already touching in some areas, but since it's double layered, that's really helped with keeping the cabbage moth, which can still lay its eggs through the fabric if it was just one layer. So the double layer has really helped with that. But it still needs to be taller. And I keep saying I want to build something with the various PVC materials I have around, but I haven't gotten to it. It's just like one of those block things that I have not gotten around to mentally. So this bed had a failure of onions because they succumbed to allium leaf miner early on in the season. So brassicas is supposed to be a good follow-up to allium crops. And that's definitely proving to be the case. I haven't seen any issues with these plants other than minor slugs, which you can't really avoid. I did put sluggo down to lessen the population. So I don't want to kill off all the slugs, particularly, is it called the tiger slug? The ones with the spots on the back. I have a lot of those, and I want to keep those because those eat other slugs. And I have a lot of those in the compost, which is fantastic. So we definitely encourage certain kinds of slugs. And we allow them to eat some of our produce. Because they generally stay on the bottom leaves, or the older leaves. They tend to leave the new stuff alone. I do try to come through and take out some of the older leaves that look diseased or very damaged. Like this one has all those browning spots and it's dying out, so we can give that to the chickens. Or this one's particularly holy. Oops, that's wilty. That's a Swiss chard. And obviously airflow is also very important, even for these. So getting some of these bottom leaves out will only help with that. So here's a bed newly formed. It has a bitter melon, it has a bean, and it has 2 sweet potatoes. So it's a little much for this container, but we'll see. It's also not even, it's sitting on a stump. But we do the best we can on this one. So that was part 1 of watering. This is a new hose because we're now on the back side of the house and we need a new water source for that. Oh, well, I'm running this out of water, hot water. So while I'm doing that, I need to prep the other hose, which is a totally different animal altogether. So this hose is attached to the IBC tote that's being fed by the chicken coop. And this does not have hardly any power because it's just gravity fed. But this also needs to lose some of this hot water. So we're going to, let's see, how long does the hose reach? that's as far as it goes, which is not very far. I want to just feed this soil that's open here and baking. So this is soil we harvested garlic out of not too long ago. And then I topped it with some chicken house, chicken run oil. That's not ideal. One in the middle. Yeah. Okay, there we go. We'll just let that run for a little bit and then direct it to a plant that's important. So now we have run out the hot. Yep, nice and cold. Now we can water the green stalk, which I'm going to come back through here and give this some compost tea since it's a container. As you can see, this is very wasteful of me at the moment, but I'll do this right. This is my parsnip container here. Only 4 of the 6 came up, but there is double, so technically I still have 6. All right. So I think it takes about 2 gallons, maybe more, in the whatchamacallit, reservoir to fill up. But since it's like coming through the bottom as it's filling up, you definitely end up putting in more than 2 gallons. But I'm not going to fill it up because I'm going to come back through and do some foliar feeding. I'm going to wait till I get back to clean up these spent lettuces. And then I have those lettuce seedlings that I'll be putting in its place in a few more weeks. I'm not going to do it just yet. It's still too hot. So we've got looking like pretty ripe strawberry there. The beauty of ever-bearing strawberries. So sadly, I can't fill up my rice containers very full, and because they have holes in them and one cracked, and I didn't realize it until after the fact. So the one in blue was supposed to be no drainage, and then the one in white already has holes all over it. So this was supposed to test out if you really need to not drown, to keep this type of rice, which is long grain, submerged in a whole bunch of water. But that failed in this particular case. And so I have a lot of weeds. I have to feed this more often because the nutrients are going out the door. But we'll make it work. Maybe. All right, that's enough for now. Best thing I did was prune back this citronella. It really has a beautiful, dense structure now instead of all the higgly-piggly stems all over the place. Yeah, this lettuce is still holding on. I doubt it tastes very good, but it's pretty. So keep it until the replacements are ready. I think I will seed into this. I didn't start enough lettuce to replace the whole both containers, so I'll seed into this when I decide to feed these to the chickens. Probably not till August. That's when our evenings will be more consistently cooling down and they won't mind that as much. So a couple of spaces that I can't reach with the hose is my lantana. And this practically empty bed that I was hoping gladiolas would come out of, but only one has survived, and I don't even know if that's going to flower this year. So we do have space to put something that's fast maturing. So I can get more beets in there, radish, lettuce, a whole bunch of things. And it's just a raised earth bed. I can even put carrots in there, although the soil beneath the 4 inches is pretty compact. And then there's that maple behind that really takes up a lot of the nutrients. So now we're in the melons, which any other place might be very successful. But where we are, we've got rabbit damage, taking out our stems. And without those stems, we have no fruit. So we might have another failure of the season because of the rabbits. But I did feed the soil some more chicken compost. And it seems like there's a sunflower that got planted there by the critters. That's at least something to look forward to. But yeah, it's a real bummer that the rabbits are still being my main pest. They are less interested in the pumpkins. But I don't know what it is about these pumpkins that, no, not the pumpkins, but the soil here, which I think is pretty rich considering it's all compost. Nothing I put in it. I mean, these are doing pretty well, but not as well as they are in other spaces. Is it too sunny? Which I find hard to believe. I just don't get it. They don't grow so well over here. But I need to top this area off with more compost. Because what else can you do but add more compost? Oh, this is ground cherry here, which I have a lot of volunteers of. So that's like one of my main weeds, because they're everywhere. So this smaller melon is faring a little bit better. Oh, that one's cantaloupe in the first container. This is watermelon. This hasn't been attacked yet, so they're not as interested in this right now. But still no fruit, just flowers. Almost forgot this. I can't run this for too long because this also feeds the chickens water. So we can't go around wasting perfectly good water. So we'll put some over here in the okra. Ooh. All right, we'll be back. Something else I like to not forget is to top off some little watering stations for the bees and the birds. Can you see that container? I don't think so, but there's a container there, a shallow dish. And then there's a bounty of wine berries here that I've gotten a bit of fruit from, but the competition is fierce with the birds. But it's been enjoyable. Aside from the ever-bearing strawberries, it's the only other fruit that we really enjoyed. The echinacea always looks ragged, like they get really eaten up. over here. And then we have the black-eyed Susan. Fortunately, they've all escaped. They're outside the rock wall here, which isn't ideal because I think the sage here has taken over, so they've had to plant themselves elsewhere. Now I have my wheelbarrows all around, and sometimes I like to collect water in them so that I can just dump them in a bed when the time comes. I'm very excited to see what color flower that yarrow is going to be because I've been trying to get some more pastel ones up. So that should be interesting. I got my amaranth. These are amaranth. There should be some snapdragon seeds I threw down coming up. They are fierce competition with weeds I can't identify. But I think there's a couple here. Snaps. This ginger pot is doing well. That ginger finally poked through. So that was a pretty much meant for the garbage or the compost. And I just kept forgetting about it. And then eventually I saw it didn't die, but was trying to put out something. So I buried it in the soil and left it out here, watered it occasionally, and now we have a potential ginger. Now, there are some things I need to harvest for sure. I'm hoping to do it today, but I might not. But I gotta thin out this mint. This is getting out of hand. Also, this Mexican mint has to go. And then the oregano earlier. I have to thin out the oregano for sure. I think I'm just propagating grass here. I don't know. This is lobelia. So we'll see. We will see how that goes. I've never planted lobelia before. This is starting to feel more like a garden tour. We have cucumbers coming on. See down there is an Armenian. And then, where'd they go? There. There's a pickling. I know the loofah's starting to climb the trellis. It took forever. What do we have in here? My moonflower is getting up there, but no flower yet. The neighbors are doing some work on their property, and the dog is none too pleased. She has been barking herself ragged for 2 days now. I tied her up earlier because her voice was just going, but now I let her out to do her business, so I'm gonna maybe have to tie her back up here shortly. So one of the things I also have to keep on top of is keeping the vines vining in the direction I want them instead of willy-nilly. Now grow bags are a whole nother beast. This is my first year really growing in them, so I don't have any real reviews yet. Like this particular one is in quite a bit of shade, so it holds on to water a little bit better than the ones that are out in full sun. This is like zucchini and sweet potatoes and a little bit of melons, a little bit of flowers. Now, unfortunately, the zucchini is coming on at the worst possible time because I won't be here to harvest it, and it might go over, and then that would be that. That's why we're starting more zucchini. Plus, that's what everybody says you should do is plug in another summer squash because you have time. So we're gonna try it now. I'm really weighing these down with the watering. That's okay. The sun isn't too bad. There's some cloud cover. They'll recover fine. Some plants, yes, will suffer from having their foliage wet when it's high heat of the day. These are probably those plants, but like things like brassicas could care less. Water them all you like, any time of the day, and they don't mind one bit. So yeah, I think we're gonna get at least 2 cucumbers here, which is a big win from past years where we've got 0. Imagine that, 0 squash. Didn't think that was possible. Apparently my husband has started mowing. I thought it was the neighbors, but it's my husband. So it's gonna get noisy here, so I'm probably gonna cut out quite a bit of sound when he gets closer. Oh, another thing to note is your sweet potatoes. You want to make sure you're shaking them around because you don't want them to root along the vine because that will take away from the main fruit size that you're trying to get. Then you'll end up with a whole bunch of tiny potatoes along the way instead of just big potatoes in the main area. So it's good to lift them once in a while, check up on them. So here's an example of where it was rooting, and those are roots right there, and I pulled it up. This is the main area. Now we're in the primarily, what is this, winter squash bed. This is getting a lot of partial sun, so I have like an orange glow watermelon in there that's not doing anything at all because it's not sunny enough. So that's a loss this year. We'll be able to try out that watermelon. So we'll have to do that again next year. Do we have any fruiting yet on these? These buggers tend to fruit like in September when you're like, all right, we're done now. And this particular one is the butternut, and it likes to vine, and it goes up in the magnolia tree all the time. So yeah, now I don't see any fruiting bodies yet on this plant. Just a lot of growth. The acorn squash is more of a bushing variety, so no trellis needed. But this Moroccan squash is doing well on this trellis. And then the blue Hubbard, which I can't remember. Yeah, it's a vining one too, but it's not doing very well. It's pretty squat. So these beds, being that they're in shade quite a bit, are holding on to their moisture, so I don't need to water these quite as much. On the opposite spectrum are these beds that are in full sun most of the day. So this bed usually houses my peas, and they will again in a few weeks. But for now, it's just housing this volunteer cherry tomato that I'm keeping alive. I've already topped it because I don't really want a whole bunch of fruit from this. I could care less. I've also taken out like a bunch of suckers So I'll just let this much fruit come through, about a dozen, and see what it tastes like. There's also a volunteer borage in here that I'm keeping alive, but I think it's past its wellness. Back here are also my strawberries. They're just staying alive. These are June bearing, so they're not doing anything, taking up space. If I establish strawberries in another area, I think I will make these beds, these containers, into something else, maybe ornamental. I'm starting to look into those kinds of plants because they bring me joy. Ah, crap, I gotta move that other hose. I'll be back. We've actually circled back to the front area, but so that other hose could have reached here. This is just more convenient. We're gonna water these cosmos. I wish I had time to deadhead, but I do not. We're coming up on the 2 hour mark, and I'm not even, I'm not even close to 2/3 of the way done. So yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to do an afternoon session after all. So we have all the tomatoes and peppers and corn. Very important produce in the back needs to be hit up. So I'm gonna finish up in this area and then gotta get ready to go out. So the zinnias are starting to come in. Not anything impressive. And there was some early blooms, but I think it got hit with some kind of pest. Looked like maybe mealy bugs or something. Here's another one of my containers, shallow containers. So there's a fig tree over here that's super shadowed by the raspberries. I have yet to successfully fruit the figs because they keep getting taken out by the voles and the rabbits in the winter. But the root systems persist, so they just keep coming back up. But it's just a plant at this point. Now this one is my most successful growth because it's got more sun to it. I did top it or pinch it. Not that that matters because there's no fruit on it. So, but it just seemed like a good idea. I didn't want this to get too overgrown, and then when I try to stake it in the winter or wrap it, it'll be too much to handle. So I think pinching it was a good call, regardless of the fruit. One day I'll figure out which variety this is once it fruits, hopefully, because I had two different varieties from prior years, and then I added a Chicago Hardy. Um, was it this season or last year? No, it was in the spring. So it never would have made it through winter otherwise. But one of these is a Violette de Bordeaux, and the other one is unknown. It's hard to see the Chicago Hardy amongst all the grass here, but it's here, doing well. I'm not too worried about this area. I watered this not too long ago, and it holds on to moisture a little bit better. These are my sunchokes, doing well in their containers. Don't think of planting sunchokes anything else but containers. You will regret it. Just like mints. All right, our pride and joy for the moment are the pumpkins. I think this is the Big Macs because it says in the description that they'll like give you 4 or 5 really sizable fruit. And then the New England pie pumpkin, which is the other pumpkin in here, is stockier plant, so good for small spaces. And it's so far only given me one fruit, which is this one. This is the Big Mac stem. So I'm quite pleased with this, how this is going so far. All right, that was a little too much stream there. There are still beets under here, under the protective containers. I mean, slugs can still get them, but at least the rabbits and the voles, not yet. But I'm probably speaking too soon. And I do need to put more seeds in anyway. So yeah, the potato in here, you can't see it really, but it's very green. So I haven't felt the need to pull it up. And they're little roasting potatoes, nothing to write home about. And I already harvested my other bags of potatoes, so I don't need any more at the moment. They can sit there, they can overwinter, they can grow back next year. Doesn't really hurt me. This marigold is struggling a little bit because of all the shade that it's in and some of the competition. But otherwise, this area is good. Another space that I topped with some chicken coop manure, chicken compost. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of nights, is just sifting through the chicken coop. I'll take you there in a little while. Yeah, I think I'll take you there after this, and then end it for the morning. Get ready to go out, and then come back and do the rest of the watering this evening. The hens are taking their dust baths for the day. Always good to see. But yeah, this area here, down here, I took a pitchfork too and loosened up. So I've been slowly picking it up and putting it in the garden. And then this area here in the front, all the way across to the IBC tote there. I've been collecting this, and I haven't really made a dent, which is great. And I haven't collected this in several years. I also recently installed the automatic waterer, the silver, so that's one less thing to be worried about while we're away. But I also have extra watering containers just in case. Malabar spinach that I grow specifically for the chickens, but they take forever to come up. And I'm hearing this, I don't know if it's just this year, but I don't think so, because they always take forever for me. Plus they're in a slightly shady area here. There's another one beyond the lemon balm on the other side. But also, look at that. That is all singing nettle. Did I plant it there on purpose? Yes, I did. For the chickens. Sometimes they eat at it, but mostly not. But yeah, I have so much stinging nettle. Very healthy stinging nettle. I'm not mad about it. All right, it is now afternoon. We're back from our afternoon shenanigans. And we're going to take a different approach here with watering this area because the current hose setup isn't long enough. I could extend it, but I find that I lose a lot of water in the joints. So I'll have to do it this way, which isn't the end of the world. So we're just going to water the grow bags. This is a 2-gallon, I think, 8-liter can. So we're just going to do our best and take it easy doing this. We're not in a rush. I don't know, it's 2 gallons per bag, too much. Let's do that count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's about a gallon at 20. I think I was counting too fast. But no, it could use more. Ooh, wasn't holding that right. I'm not gonna fill it up because it's a little too heavy for my left hand. What are these? These grow bag, but this grow bag is empty. It had potatoes, but one thing you don't want to do is let soil just sit naked. Because for one, it'll just get blown away by the wind. 2, weed seeds will generally just grow in it. And 3, it makes it harder later on if it becomes hydrophobic to then plant in it. So it's best to keep it watered until, or mulched is the better option, but I'm not up to that for now. So we're just gonna keep it watered until I'm ready to use it. I'm gonna double it up over here. So that's gonna get that. This one's gonna get a hose. So sadly, I was never able to keep up on watering this area. So the beans in this particular bag, and I put quite a few iterations of beans, never came up. I had better luck with the mung beans in that bag, and I planted beans in other containers that weren't so hard to keep up with the raised beds. So the mung beans in this bed, at least 4 of them came up and stayed up. So this bed has my tiny Tim and my geranium kiss. And I had to take the bottom foliage off quite a bit because they were very diseased looking. I don't know where I put them, but a lot of spotting and browning and just not looking good. Oh, here we go. Still some left over on this plant. So it's hard to get it all out, but we can try. Oh, goodness, they have really strong stalks. And these are very like robust little trees. They look like trees. Stems. And I do want to get some more mulch on top of this. You can't see it, but there's a little beetle. The what do they call them? Flea beetle. They've been biting me. That's why I'm always covered from head to toe, because I was working on, when I was working in the chicken coop, they were all over me, and I was so itchy. My back was so itchy. Right there. There. I was so itchy for days. And I tend to hold on to that stuff. So those little buggers also make little holes in the plants and probably carry disease. But they were not pleasant on my skin. So something else we're supposed to be doing, I guess, particularly if you're in the colder parts, is to desucker the peppers as well, because that's energy not going towards fruit production. So taking off those suckers might be helpful. Now, in my case, these things are pretty small still, so I have a long ways to go before they're in the fruiting stage. But while I'm here, this one wants to flop over. This is starting to flower. I do need to get the cage over here. Cage up some of these. So this bed has a few bushing type beans. I forget which ones, but I guess 3 of them are successful. I see what possibly are some other brassicas coming up. I'm guessing Brussels sprouts, because that's what was in this bed beforehand, but it could always end up being something else. So we will let that come up. So the plants, the peppers, the beans are doing quite well in this bed, but I'm particularly pleased by the dill. I seeded this not that long ago, but the spring dill failed us a long time ago. So I'm excited to have summer dill, and it'll be right on time for the cucumbers. Well, maybe not. Well, regardless, it'll be good to have a fall harvest of dill. So we still have to work on getting it at the same time as the cukes. So this was the overwintered pepper jalapeno, and it's finally giving us fruit. So little tiny fruits there. I'm sure there's more. You can't see it. But the Thai chili is not far behind. That's exciting. That's a good specimen there. This is another one. This is my mystery bell. Tiny, tiny ones that are particularly hot. And then the bell peppers, sweet banana, finally perked up. They were super tiny, scrawny when I put them in. And this Jimmy Nardella is getting a little more shaded than I like, but it'll be fine. What's back here? This is, what's that say? I can't read it anymore. Orange habanero. That's it. That's the orange habanero. Unfortunately, this is as far as the hose goes, and we have to water a whole bunch of area over there. So it's a lot of walking back and forth and filling up this 2-gallon. Ideally, another IBC tote or some other kind of water holding container would sit like on that corner over there so that gravity would feed it into these areas because this is a downhill slope. But for now, this is what we're doing. But first, I'm gonna wrestle with this whole nonsense of fencing to somewhat keep the dog out of the area. It only works half the time. Because if there's a vole or a mouse, she's got her eye on. This little chicken stuff doesn't stand a chance. So I'm finding this German striped aroma tomato is very sensitive to not being watered unless it's being attacked by something else, but I don't see anything else. The bottom leaves are doing okay, but the top leaves are a little bit more wilty. Everybody else is looking fine, really. Oh, it took nearly 10 gallons to finish up the tomato row. Finally, we're nearing the end. We are here, what is this, brassica spaces? These are supposed to be Brussels sprouts. There's only a couple of plants in these spaces. I was leaving them for the fall plantings. Now this is the okra slash eggplant space. I think I'll free them when I get back. Oh, wonderful. I woke up the chicken chorus. So the corn is another area that I top dressed. yesterday. And this is going to take multiple gallons. All right, almost done. Just have two more spaces to go. One being this blueberry. I can't even call it that because there aren't any blueberries because we got beaten out of eating them. The birds took them before they were even ripe, so we never had a chance. And yeah, it's an overgrown mess. But that's for another day. What's doing really well here are the ground cherries. They are really taking over. Wow, this has got to be the longest I've ever spent watering these spaces by hand. I'd say I'm going on 3 hours now. I realized earlier I blamed the flea beetles for my bug bites while I was in the chicken area, and that could have been completely wrong. A lot of times I catch myself in the editing process saying something that was not exactly right. But no one's really paying that much attention anyway, so not really apt to correct yourself. But this time I think I will. So I'm not sure what was biting me. It appeared like little beetles, but it could also be some kind of mite. It's most likely some kind of mite that lives in the chicken area. There's always lots of those pests present. All right, that is that, I think. in the world. Okay. I usually like to have 2 gloves for this because they peck quite hard, especially her. And 1 egg for her. She's new on the scene of broodiness, so getting less than ideal egg numbers while we got all these hens going in and out of broodiness. Ah, get off me. Okay. Wow, it's a good thing I have all the time in the world to do that, because that's definitely been the most I've ever spent in one go. Granted, it was broken between daytime and afternoon, but usually I break it up, several days. Like I do some kind of composting or fertilizing on one day with the buckets, and then I'd go with the hose 2 hours max on other days. And not max because I set a time limit, but that's just how it's been. But this one was definitely a concerted effort to get everything soaked. But it'll be nice to, leave and then come back after a few days, because you really get to see like a big change in the garden when you don't look at it every day. And hopefully we'll get, a thunderstorm. That always perks up the garden. All right, I need to go start packing and editing this video. It should come out probably by the time we get back. But yeah, I still got a lot to do. All right, talk to you all again soon. So I'll harvest more. Bye.